Hi, welcome to the eighth part of the Discrimination in Labor Market lecture of the Gender Economics lecture series. This lecture series is prepared for the Milos Technical University Northern Cyprus campus. And lastly, we have talked on the Anti-Discrimination Act, and actually in the Law Winkler and Farber text I was reviewing, well, they didn't talk on the second Anti-Discrimination Act I was talking about. I was looking for them for the date of the Winkler and Farber article. This is 2010. Actually, it should be there, but they haven't mentioned it. They mentioned various other laws actually, and some executive orders. Executive orders are orders that are actually declared by the president of the United States, and they can have they can act like laws for a while at least. Different type of laws that were against discrimination, but usually minor things. But there was another law on a major law which was preventing, other forms of discrimination in addition to wage. But this at least chapter doesn't mention that, so I should note that to you. Well, affirmative action. What is affirmative action? Affirmative action is actually, in addition to just making discrimination illegal for equal type of people, equal type of jobs, basically, instead, what you do is you actively try to develop a workplace ability to employ people from different genders, people from different from different races, and also there might be other characteristics, like for example from different country origins basically. Well, in the United States, basically affirmative action is action that is kind of forced in for the companies that are working for the state contractors, and mainly here that's for federal contractors, by the way. I don't know the states. In states, there could also be certain ones which are applying this affirmative action thing. But basically, the companies should test whether there are obstacles in underutilization of disadvantaged groups: women, black people, Hispanic people, people from Mexico, people from, I don't know, maybe Middle East. And then, if there are obstacles, they should put a plan to remove those obstacles. And usually, if the number of women are working in those companies is less, it is actually considered as if the company is underutilized, basically. But the state, when it basically makes the contract, it kind of the federal state tests whether the company has gone through this process. And if you're interested, I can provide you documents, and there is also some information on how this affirmative action is actually applied in the United States. And you also have some details in the article, but I go a little bit shorter because since we are already at the 8th part and we have 2 articles left in this lecture. The comparative word, comparable word, is the third option, which is used in some countries but not in other countries. And in this case, basically, for different jobs, the worth of that job, the actual value that job creates, is calculated, and basically this outside agency, not the companies but outside agency, calculates it and makes sure that the wage differences between different positions are according to this comparable worth. Of course, now the companies cannot decide the value of their employers themselves according to the critiques, and that can create problems according to those critiques. Although, again, according to the other famous economists, well, maybe you need an inertia, maybe you need to break the culture, and in order to do that, you need maybe comparable worth in action. Well, similar critiques are also brought to the affirmative action. If the companies are thinking, I mean, they are harmed by lack of women, they can take the action themselves according to that the basic neoclassical view. So they should not be enforced by the government to make just an investigation whether women are underutilized and take actions, basically. But then again, you have the other view. Maybe state needs to break inertia, at least with the companies that are working with itself. I mean, state has a duty not only to get the services it buys from those companies, but also enforce or diffuse certain standards in the labor market and in the society in general, according to the other view. Anyway, this is below Winter and Faber article. As I said, it was a long article and a very detailed article. And you can read it, actually. There are more fine details on everything we have talked on in the article. And some also small pieces of cases even in there. And those cases are by themselves very good cases. Now we will look to the third article. This third and fourth articles are relatively more smaller. And this third article is by Bertrand, and it is a different, interesting name. Are Emily Gregg more employable than Lakisha and Jamal? Jamal is like Turkish name Cemal, by the way. A field experiment on the labor market discrimination. Very interesting experiment. Actually, I used this experiment on in interesting sense. I mean, I had a friend in the United States, and he asked me, he wanted to put, give his son, her son actually, my name, Kerem, but they wanted to know whether I had met any discrimination. Well, of course, in the academia where I never met discrimination, or at least I don't know if I have not been accepted to university because of my name. But at the time I have read this paper, and I know one of the particular names that are subject to the discrimination was Karim. Not Kerem, but Karim. Karim is like Turkish name Kerim, and it is perceived as a black name in the United States. Can I find it? I can find it. Yes, African American names. These are the boys, the woman. I'm sorry. These are the male names. Karim is here. You can see Karim. It's even performing worse than the average African Americans, by the way. Anyway, what did this research do? This research tries to show the pure effect of being African American on potential job interviews. So how can they do that? How can you separate the basic effect of the human capital from the effect of being African American? Because for any specific African American candidate, I mean, you have a bunch of characteristics, and you might not be able to see certain characteristics which might be represented in the job interviews, which might be perceived in the job interview by the employer. So they have done an interesting method. They had created different CVs without any name and race. Some CVs with good qualities, with certain elements that are part of good qualities. We will see, but in detail. But basically, computer skills are an example of how to make a CV more with a good quality, or language skills, for example. And there are other types of skills they have also added. We will see them in detail. And basically, the then they have chosen different names. Some of those names are male names. Some of the names are the female names. Some of them are the male names and female names, and some of those names are more black-sounding names. Those names are used more by the black people. Some of the names are used more by the white people. And as I said, Karim is a name used in the United States more by the black people. Actually, many of the Turkish names are, because there are many Muslim people in the United States, Muslim black people in the United States, basically. And then they have randomly assigned those names to the CVs. So CVs and the names are randomly assigned. I mean, you don't have a black name, black person with an actual CV. So you cannot say, the characteristics of the black people are shaped actually the results. Although, of course, certain elements in CVs might have been effective, but we cannot say, there is something we didn't see in CVs that are associated with the black people and that have been affected, since the names are distributed randomly. And then also random addresses are also assigned to the CVs. And then there have been from the newspapers job ads found, and for each ad 4 people have called the place. Those were the places with the where you can call it for getting a job interview, and each time one black, one white with high quality and low quality has called. So 4 calls are done, and they have then recorded how many of those applications that are sent. I don't know. I would say they have sent the applications, and then they received call back to get the interview, or that call will say whether they have got the interview or they didn't get the interview. So if they got the interview, then they have got the interview, and then they recorded how much having a black name or white name affected the likelihood of getting. Then they have find out how the black names and the white names are affecting the whether the people get the interview or whether people don't get the interview. So that's the research. But then they have tested also different factors. Whether the names are associated, for example, with the education of the families. Whether maybe it's not the blackness or whiteness, but how the names are associated with the background of the parents, whether addresses are affected, and how actually the educational background, having a better CV, is affecting white applicants and the black applicants, basically. So this is the research. We will talk more on this in the next part. We will start by looking to weakness of design and then look to the results of the research basically. See you in the next part.